Hi everybody, this is Hannah from Mother Goose's Makery, and today I'm going to be showing you how I made the daffodil vase from the Tonic Craft Kit 102 Various Vases set. Bear in mind, I did not follow the instructions at all. Went completely rogue, different method, but you know what? It worked and I prefer it to the actual method. So if you want to go official, please use the paper in your set. If not, follow me. We'll go on a journey. It'll be good. Right, so firstly, I'm going to make the main body of the vase. And I made this with 6 of the long inserts and 6 of the petal-shaped edges. So, taking the die set that we get in the kit, you can see that the side pieces, the petal-shaped ones, are done using this large die, which has a flap at the bottom. The flap at the bottom becomes very important when you bear in mind if you have directional paper that you're putting on top of it. Then the matte layer I did out of pattern paper is done with the smaller petal-shaped die. And then you'll see on the right-hand side, there's also a verso die, which is a decorative one that can either be cut into the large one to make it see-through, or the smaller layer that goes on top. So a decorative overlay or cut into it. So I've done the first 5 of my 6 petals. This is number 6. So I'm just going to glue the patterned paper inlay that I took from the pad that was included in the set, which, by the way, absolutely gorgeous. I went for the peacocky birds. I don't know if they are peacocks. They're pretty though. And I'm just going to lay that on the larger piece. Now, remember, I said my paper's directional, so it's going with the tab at the bottom. If you do it the other way around, it is not going to work. Well, it will work. It's just your paper will be upside down. So, whilst I let that last piece dry, we're going to deal with the inner part of the vase, which in real life would be the bit you actually put the flowers in, and in this gift box is the bit you're going to put the prezi in. It's made up of 6 parts because it's hexagonal. So what we make sure we do is the long tab on the side, they are all pushed down. They become mountain folds. And the tabs on the top and the bottom are valley folds. So you want the tabs at the top and the bottom sticking up towards you and the long tab on the side sticking away from you. I'm then going to glue together all 6 pieces in a row by attaching them with the long side. Okay, so just run glue all down the long-sided tab and then stick it to its neighbour. So now we're just going to pop that to the side, let that dry, and move on to the next bit. The base of the vase is made up of 2 hexagons. Now you'll see there are 3 different sizes of hexagon. This size that we need for this bit is the middle-sized hexagon. You can tell it's middle-sized because it has 2 little dots on the frame. The small one has 1, the large one has 3. So, we are going to take the middle-sized hexagon. I'm going to pop glue all the way around the outside, and then I'm going to attach all of our large petals, so our large outer petals, to the edge of the hexagon. So it's going to end up looking like a huge-ass flower. So with our big flower complete, we are now going to put glue over top of the tabs of the outer petals, and we're going to stick over our second medium hexagon, and that is just going to hide all our working and make the base look super neat. So basically, the top and the bottom are sandwiched around the edge of the petals. Now, in the instructions, it says attach the petals to the side of the inner, and then you attach the base, and then you attach the other one inside. But I personally have big hands, and I find it really hard to stick stuff inside. And it's actually, I found, way easier to do this first and then just fold the petals up over the inner. You'll see as the video goes on. But to me, this seemed way easier. So now that that's all glued together and all our petals are firmly secured, you can see how these will just fold up to make our vase. And you see now we've already got the main body of the shape. Now our inner is dry, and so all our long edges are firmly attached. What we're going to do is place the inner within the petals. So you can see that those tabs that I said were valley folds, the tube is going to be completed, and those valley folds are going to fold at the bottom up and at the top down. So what we're going to do is we're going to apply glue to the top of the tab. So it would be on the inside of them, but they're folded out. I think luckily having a visual representation of that makes it a lot easier to understand. So now we've got glue all over the edges of our flaps. We're going to turn it over and we're just going to place those flaps at the base of each petal. So you can see that the flaps are flared outwards, and that's so they fit the way that the petals start off narrow and curve outwards. So what will happen is each flat edge at the base of the inner will go around the hexagon perfectly, and then the flaps that get bigger will just follow along the lines of the curve of each petal. Please excuse my grey hair. No one needs to see that. Probably need to dye it. But I just needed to see what I was doing. And once all of those flaps are in place on the petals, then what we're going to do is run glue along the last long tab and just seal up our inner tube so it's an actual tube, because at the moment it's still just a long piece of card that we've stuck round in a circle. So now our tube is now a tube and it's attached to the petals at the bottom. So we're going to stick glue to the inside of all of the flaps that are at the top so that we can stick the other end of the petals to that end. Exactly the same as we did with the other end, except we don't have the hexagon in the middle. What you might find is easier to do is do alternate petals. So do 1, 3, 5, 2, 4, 6, because it can be easier sticking something that isn't right next to its neighbour that's just been stuck, so you don't want to knock it and you end up having to try and be super careful. So you might find it's easier to do one petal, miss one, do the next, and then work your way around twice rather than doing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, because then you're having to be super careful of the one next to it. And I am clumsy as hell and discovered this halfway through gluing them, because I glued like the first 3 and then I started skipping them because I found it way easier. Also, because of the way the setup is, I found that you can glue it, position your flap in place, and then you can just pinch it down so it's flush to the inside, and that will just hold it tight and make sure so you're not just trying to glue something without holding behind it. Also, last point, didn't mention this, it's a lot easier if you give your petals a light curve with a bone folder or on the edge of a table before you start sticking them, because then they have the natural curved line which is kind of needed to join the top to the bottom. It'll just make it look better, because otherwise it can look a bit flat. Also, hindsight, probably would have been easier to complete the tube first and then stick it to the petals, just saying. So now we are going to move on to how to make the lid. And the lid is made out of 2 stages, depending on what you're trying to achieve with it. You could make a completely flat lid, which would just be 1 stage. What I'm doing is I'm making a receptacle for the flowers So this is a 2-stage lid. And for this, you are going to need 6 of the large sides. And they need to be stuck together by the side tab. So you can see that's the large side die, that's the little side die, and we're just going to stick the large side dies together by the tab on the right hand side, or the left depending on which way around you have it. So you'll have a flap on the top and the bottom and one side, and you want to stick it with the tab that's on the side. So once we've stuck those 6 side tabs together and glued it back on itself so it makes a hexagon, you'll see that fits perfectly inside your vase. So that will effectively be like a stopper for inside your vase. And then what we're going to need is we need to cut out some hexagons to go on the top and the bottom. This is going to need 2 of the smallest size, and we're also going to need to cut out 2 of the largest size. So what I did was I cut out 3, the 2 small and 1 large, in the colour of my main body of vase, which was the teal. And then I cut out 1 in green because I thought that would be a good base for my daffodils to sit in. That's 1 of the large in green. Of course, if you wanted the inside to be brown to represent dirt, you would do 1 large in brown, or you could just do it the same colour as everything else if you're not being particular about it. If you're just making a regular lid, you would still need 2 small and 2 large. The 2 small would go on the bottom of the stopper, and then the 2 large would go on the top. And then what you would do is you would cut a hexagon out of the uppermost one and put together the pieces that make a handle. And then you would thread that through the small hexagon, glue the flaps to the back of that, and then mount that on top of the other large hexagon and stick that whole thing to the top of the stopper. And this is very rare footage of me actually die cutting something, which, despite the fact that I do a lot of die cutting, I tend to not have any of it on camera because it's quite dull and you know how to die cut things. But I was on my break at work and I had forgotten to cut the pieces that went on the lid, so needs must. Also, side note, really love my Spellbinder's Scout machine. It's got a 3.5 inch wide mouth, so it's wider than the Gemini Mini, which is 3 inches. It's wider than the Sizzix Sidekick, which is 2.5 inches. 3.5 inches means you can use a hell of a lot more dies in it than the other ones, and you can do embossing of dies and use smaller embossing folders. Absolutely love it. If Tonic made a clementine or a kumquat, I would buy it, but they don't. So make a smaller machine, Tonic, and I'll buy it and I'll promote it. But until you do, my heart belongs to my Spellbinder Scout because it's small enough for me to put in a bag, but it is big enough to do a lot of the work that I need it to do. I cut out everything for this on this 3.5 inch machine, which is fabulous because I could just get on and do it on my breaks at work. I don't have a large machine at work. I do have a 6 inch machine. Anyway, I'm going on now. So now we're going to start adhering our hexagons to our lid. What you're going to need to do is, of the 2 smaller hexagons, I'm going to pop glue on the inside of all of my flaps, place 1 hexagon inside, push it down the table so that the flaps adhere, and then I'm going to put a flap on the outer to hide all the workings and make it look neat inside. So whilst that dries, we're going to work on the top layer of our lid. So we have 6 of the smaller side dies, and we're just going to fold under the flap for the base and the little flap on the side that meets its neighbour, and then you're going to glue the little flap to its neighbour, so you have like a daisy chain of sides, and then loop that back round to the first one. So you again have another hexagon. So with that now as our hexagonal loop, what we're going to want to do is stick in on our hexagons. So I flipped it over. I have popped glue on all those folded over under tabs, and I'm going to stick the blue hexagon to the bottom, which is the same colour as the rest of my lid. And then I'm going to flip it over, fill it with glue, and pop in my green inner layer onto the very top of my lid, the top inside, that is. So now we're going to be sticking the upper lid to the lower lid. So we're just going to apply glue to all the tabs of the lower lid and just slap the upper one on top. Obviously, place it neatly and carefully, but effectively, you're just slapping it on. Now, on to the daffodils, which are very much the money shot of this whole vase situation. We have the dies in the set, so you can just make them out of coloured card or normal card and ink it. However, in the paper pad, we also have, I think it's 3 sheets of daffodil paper, which is double-sided in tones of yellow, in the shape, but slightly bigger than the die cuts, so we can cut them out and we don't end up getting an edge. And that's what I've opted to use today. No blending. Life's too short for that. So you're going to need 6 petals, outer petals, and 6 inner petals. The outer petals, which are the large, more petally shaped ones, I'm just shaping them using either scissors or a bone folder by just curving one side, so the right, flipping the petal over, and then curving the other side so that it moves in almost like an S shape and it has a more natural curve to it because petals don't tend to be straight. So first things first, I like to alternate them because nature doesn't tend to be, oh, these are all bright yellow. So just to kind of mix it up, I'm kind of alternating the yellower and the more orangey brown petals. You can just see me here shaping one that I forgot to shape earlier. Also, once you shape it, just give the little flap at the end a little bend, just to prepare yourself for this. So, we're going to take the inner petals and we're going to apply glue to the flap on the right-hand side and then glue it to its neighbour. There's a lot of neighbourhood gluing in this make. You take stuff, you glue a flap, you stick it to its neighbour. So we're being consistent throughout this make. And we're just going to do that with all 6 of the inner petals. Okay, it's pretty straightforward. I have obviously pre-scored all of the score lines that the die cut produces. So the flaps are already bent both on the side and at the bottom. So once we have all 6 of these, we are just going to complete the circle and then turn it over and make sure that all of the bottom flaps are folded in. So then I'm going to take the middle hexagon that has the stamens printed on, and we're just going to glue that and pop that inside the little trumpet in order to create stability. Normally with a make, I would stick a hexagon front and back of the flaps, but in this case, I didn't really see the point because we're about to stick more stuff to it, so we can't really hide our workings. Then we turn it over so that the back of the trumpet is facing towards us. Pop glue on all 6 of the sections, and then we're just going to attach the little tabs on the end of the petals that we have shaped to the back of the flower. So you'll have 1 petal per trumpet section. And the little tabs helpfully show you exactly where you should be sticking the pieces. So that is our finished daffodil, and it's looking very daffodilly. Now we just need to work on the stem. So for that, there are 3 different stem sizes. There's a small, a medium and a large. I've already done the small and the medium, so this is the large. So we're going to take the stem and we're just going to crease along each of the score lines in the stem, so that then we can fold it up and glue it into a tube by putting glue on the little flap and adhering that to the other side. Then what we're going to do is we have fold in all the bits on the end, put a little bit of glue, fold in the 2 side flaps, and then fold up the slanted flap, and that will make a slanted edge to adhere to our flower. Then there is a small circle with a square cut inside it, and we're just going to slide that onto our stem, and then we put a little bit of glue on the edge of all of the flaps at the end, and then we're going to slide that circle down so it's stuck to the flaps, and that will make a sturdy base for our flowers. So you can see we have a stem with a slanted top and a circular base. Then we take the little leaves and we just crease them down the middle and the little tabs on the end. And then I'm just going to apply glue to the end tabs and stick them to the stem so they're like a leaf coming off of the stem. Then we just pop glue on the top of the little slant at the top of the stem, and then we are just going to press that onto the back of our daffodil trumpet. I was going to call it a sunflower, but it's not a sunflower, it's a daffodil. So we just hold it on there and let it adhere, and that is our finished daffodil. So obviously this is the 3 different sizes, so the large, the medium and the small. You could make 3 in the same size. I like the way that the different heights play with each other. I think it's good, but it is good that we have options. So then we're just going to apply glue to the bottom of the circle and just press the daffodils onto the green part of our lid, so the daffodils are just affixed to the top of it. And then once that's done, just pop it in the top of your vase and you have one completed daffodil various vase. And I think it's a little showstopper and is the perfect gift box for anyone this spring, although you can't fit a chocolate orange in it. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope my technique for putting it together has proved useful. To me, it just made more sense in how to put it together, but obviously you can follow the instructions or make your own adventure. Choose your own adventure in how to put this together. I've done my bit and made the vase and showed you how to do it. So if you can do your bit and do the liking and the subscribing and the notifying, that would be amazing because it helps with the algorithm. And I want to get my crafty videos out there because I love seeing your makes and I love making and I want to continue doing it. Until next time, keep crafty.